is Rebecca Sterling with the Linked Learning Alliance. Thank you so much for joining us today for the Introduction to Linked Learning Certification webinar. Right now, all attendees are on mute, so if you have any questions as we're going along, please do take advantage of the chat feature and feel free to ask your questions, post them in there. At the end of the webinar, we'll have time to go through questions, and any questions that we don't get to by the end of the webinar, we'll make sure to follow up with and get answers to you as quickly as we can. But with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. I'll be sharing my screen, and we'll start with some introductions of the presenters that you have today. So as I said, this is Rebecca Sterling, and I'm with the Linked Learning Alliance. I'm joined with a colleague of mine, Alex Gavian, also from the Linked Learning Alliance, and Bijou Beltran from Oxnard Union High School District.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, everybody.
And if either of you want to share a little bit, you can now, but we'll also be kind of having a conversation with you among the three of us. We'll be bouncing back and forth, kind of making sure that we're explaining as thoroughly as we can the features and functionality of linked learning certification, as well as some of the evolution of the tool and some of the benefits that you can expect to see out of it as a user. So with that, I'll pass it over to Alex.
Thank you, Rebecca. So this is a really exciting moment, and we're delighted and grateful that you've chosen to be a part of today's conversation. What you see in the slide before you is kind of reflective of our inspiration, that this is a transformative watershed moment for education, for young people, for our economies, and it's very exciting to see how much momentum has been happening in the career pathways movement, not only in California but across the nation. Much of this was catalyzed fairly recently through funding coming from the state legislature and other philanthropic and employer partners who have seen career pathways as one of the most promising student experiences to drive both college and career readiness for our young people. So this has been work that is not new in many ways. It's the Linked Learning Alliance has, and many of our partner organizations have been at this work for the better part of the last decade. Having said that, there has been this recent tipping point and huge surge of interest from many segments of the education and workforce systems to embrace career pathways as a new and redefining student experience that's going to extend to those students a different kind of promise in terms of their future. So that was very much our inspiration for what we're going to talk about today. We know from research that has been principally led by SRI that students who go through a certified linked learning experience are likely to do better in many of the academic and career readiness metrics that are measured and that matter. Having said that, we also know that because of the rapid scaling and expansion of career pathways, just in this slide you can see by some estimates it could be as many as 3,000 pathways in California alone once they're fully built, that we have this challenge, this tension between scale and quality at the same time. So that was in effect the problem statement that we sought to solve through building and redesigning a certification experience that could be inclusive and invite many of these new pathways into into linked learning in a scalable and an accessible way so that they could move through a staircase or up an escalator of higher and higher levels of quality assurance, and also using features and functionality to work across teams and collaborate and drive continuous improvement at the school site, at the district level, and at the regional level.
Great. Thanks, Alex. And now I think, Bijou, if you want to share a little bit with our attendees about, what this means from a district and from a former pathway developer and lead perspective, and what designing and having certification accessible means for you.
Thank you, Rebecca. I'm Bijou Beltran, Director of Career Education. I was principal at Pacifica High School for 6 years and then assistant principal prior to that. And I've been involved with creating personally 6 career academies. And as Alex was talking about, you see the data that shows that they have a higher graduation rate. Their GPAs improve dramatically, especially when following the CPA model where you have 50% at risk or more. But when we went to, as a district, to scale up from, I think at the time there were 3 at my school, 2 at another, there were maybe 6 in the entire district, and we ramped up to 22. And that in itself required that there needs to be a structure and a format to make sure that you're not just putting things in place because it sounds good, but that you actually have a work need out there, a need for that career base, that you have community and industry partners that can help you mentor your students and create those work-based learning opportunities, that you needed to make sure that you have the right teachers teaching the right courses. And this certification model that Linked Learning has put together provides a great resource to make sure that you're checking off all these different areas and that you're providing the absolute best program at each of your sites. So we're very excited. We have a new superintendent, and she's all about outcome indicators, as we should be. And so this provides a tool for us to use to really drill down and make sure that what we're offering at each site is exceptional for our students, and that it provides a roadmap, so to speak, for all of our teachers and their partner teachers, and also for our industry and community organizations that help us in our hard work.
Great, thank you for that, Bijou. And for folks on the line, we'll be able to hear a bit more from Bijou a little later on in the presentation. But for now, let's switch gears, and I'll turn it back to Alex to hear a little bit about the process of developing this platform and what it's going to be able to do for you.
Thank you, Rebecca. And Bijou, that was a great segue to some context setting before we move forward and show you a demonstration of the certification platform. So at the heart of our initiative, what we're trying to do, again, is create a scalable and accessible system for districts and for pathways to go through a quality assurance experience, one that is tiered, as you will see, and one that is also anchored and points to student outcomes largely. So that has always been a beacon for us as we have been working with many partners in developing the standards that are reflected within the platform. It's always been through the filter of thinking about student outcomes and how we can learn and discover what types of pathway models, programs, interventions, support services, and so forth all lead to better and better student outcomes over time. So here I want to show you a bit of the design principles that we have used as we have been building out the tool. The first is we wanted to have immediate recognition in the certification experience so that a pathway user or a team of users who create an account, build a pathway, and move through the process can receive immediate validation and feedback and go through a tiered certification process so that they can have wins that can be celebrated, milestones that they can meet, and then aspire toward achieving higher and higher levels of certification as we are able to build those out. So immediate recognition was one key design principle. A second one was that progress would be based upon evidence, and that evidence would, the rigor of that evidence would increase with each tier that moves forward. So as you'll see in a moment, at our lower tiers, the evidence burden is lower on purpose. It's meant to allow for ease of initial use and entry. And as a pathway moves up each level and is able to demonstrate the fulfillment of each standards, what is required of them in terms of evidence or artifacts or data increases so that there's more validity to what is happening in that pathway, and that those evidence elements that are entered into the system can be of use to all the pathway users, that you can see and share with one another what proof points and artifacts are being used and showcased to fulfill each of the standards. Likewise, we are trying to make the best of cutting-edge technology by using smart analytics to help with diagnostics, measurement, and tracking of outcomes for pathway users so that they can gain insights and learn from what is happening in terms of their student outcomes, in terms of their work-based learning, for example, and then also have a mechanism by which to seek support to colleagues or partners who might be able to help accelerate progress points. And then finally, another key design principle was that we wanted to be non-prescriptive, recognizing that there are many compelling and new leaders and champions who have been building out pathways. So we wanted to create a system in such a way that balanced both rigorous standards that would create a degree of consistency across the linked learning field and for its district and pathway partners, and at the same time flexibility to allow pathways to demonstrate the variance and the different ways in which they've approached building out their pathway programs. So on the next slide, which will come up in a moment, I want to just suggest to you that we are at the 1.0 moment, where last week at the Linked Learning Convention, we launched the Pathway Certification Experience, and we started with the pathway in mind so that users who can sign on and create accounts are principally intended to be pathway leads, teachers who are working within a pathway environment, or district leadership who are affiliated in driving their pathway initiatives. Over time, as we have opportunities to develop other features within the system, we have an eye toward potentially a student credential, teacher recognition, incorporation with our work-based learning platform LaunchPath, and then possibly an employer certification as well. So in view of the scale and all of the interest statewide and nationally in terms of the career pathways movement, we recognized that we needed a clear standard of excellence, something that was an anchor point that would telegraph standards that we know connect back to the student outcomes that Bijou and I mentioned earlier that make a difference for students to graduate from high school, college, and career ready. So this is at the heart of the platform, at the heart of the experience, was establishing and defining a clear standard of excellence that would be expansive throughout all the pathway users, and that they would have a very clear understanding of how to fulfill and achieve those standards. To get there, this has not occurred in a vacuum. For the better part of the last year, we've literally had north of 200 people, practitioners, leaders, all of whom have had input into the design, into the user experience, into the prioritization, and that has taken many different forms. We have done focus groups. We have bussed in students and teachers directly to our design studio in San Francisco. We've hosted many different videos and webinars, but the point was that we wanted this to be a collaborative effort, bringing in top-performing districts and leaders to provide input and helping us to define what that standard of excellence should be. And this here gives you a sense of the landing page. We wanted to create a very simple, easy to understand moment in the platform where any of the pathway users would know at a glance where they stood within the certification experience. So this is our progress dial as an example. We have nicknamed it the Cheerio, but this is intended to be that single moment, that single gathering point for all of the collaborators in the pathway environment to know where they stand and to understand and plan to make progress in each of the 3 domains that are illustrated there. So this slide shows an example of a pathway that just received the Link Learning Silver certification level. And this slide, I believe, has some animation. It might start scrolling here momentarily, but it's meant to give you a sense of the look and feel of the tool as well. But as we move forward in the presentation, you'll be able to see a lot more of it. So again, we also know that not all pathways look alike. So this is a system that has been built for flexibility, built to be inclusive of as many pathway implementers as there are out there. So again, this is intended to be a big tent initiative, one that allows for a wide range of diversity in the ways that schools and regions have gone about implementing a career pathway experience, but also one that connects to those standards of excellence that we know matter. And in doing so, we distilled down the standards to what we're calling 3 pillars, or 3 major elements. The first is an integrated program of study, and by that we mean the combination of both college preparatory academics that lead to a student being eligible for public university admission upon graduation, as well as a sequenced career technical education experience that brings forth the career application relevance that we know helps students persist and be prepared for success in career. The second pillar is work-based learning opportunities, and work-based learning opportunities that are applicable to the student's age level, that are stackable, and ideally culminating in an internship experience or capstone experience that is in the field, tied to industry partners, and preparing that student to move beyond into a successful post-secondary experience and then into gainful employment. Lastly, we know that wraparound and personalized student supports, which can take many different forms, is necessary for student persistence and student success, especially for kids who are underserved. So these 3 pillars are the bones, if you will, or the main lanes by which a pathway user will go through the certification experience, and it is these are the standards that would be then reflected as a pathway user is uploading those data and evidence to demonstrate fulfillment. It would be in these 3 domains.
Great, thanks, Alex. And so in just a moment, we're going to dive into some of the actual functionality of the tool, how you can go about using it, how you can register, how you can support pathways and districts who are using this tool. But before jumping over to that, I wanted to pass it back over to Bijou to talk a little bit about what are some of the benefits that a pathway team, a district, and students coming out of these pathways can actually anticipate from having accounts on Linked Learning Certification, but also from having unlocked levels of certification.
Hi, Bijou again. I liked how Alex, or maybe it was Rebecca, who stated at the beginning that when a pathway sits down and starts collaborating about what do they have in place, this certification process recognizes that yes, you do have you have a pathway, you have your program of study, you have work-based learning, you have student support, and you are a candidate. To get to the silver level is going to require a whole lot more purposeful work. And when I was at the Linked Learning Convention, I heard a couple of people saying that they would have to do all the work. And what I like is that this platform has been built to have collaborators, because for our district, I see, and I'll be honest, we haven't sat down and done much beyond the candidate part yet, but we're ready to start digging in to move towards silver status. And that's going to take a team, academy lead and their academy teachers, the coordinator of work-based learning, the Linked Learning lesson design coach, and myself as director of career education. We're going to have to work together on this collaborative platform to really identify what we're doing well and what we need to do much better. So it provides us with a way to look at when did your academy start? What grade levels are involved? What is your objective? What is your integrated program of study? What work-based learning opportunities are you providing for your students? And then are you making sure that students have the student support that they need, the orientations, college and career plans? And it needs to be a collaborative process, not in isolation, not in a silo. It's not one person sitting there just filling in data. It's a team effort, because the team has to do the work. When you get to, when Rebecca shows us later, the actual model, you'll see that there's all kinds of different things that we need to look at. Are students taking college qualifying courses sequence? Are they getting college credit? And that's a big push for articulation agreements with our post-secondary institutions, as well as dual enrollment credit. So those are things that you need to look at, as well as end-of-course assessments, and then all the interdisciplinary projects. So it gives students an opportunity. It gives them work-based learning. It prepares them for the rigorous coursework, and then they can benefit by getting internships, paid and unpaid, scholarships, and then through LaunchPath and also through this entire process, preferential hiring and university admissions, because a lot of our Cal State universities are looking at promise pathways, and they are looking at not just college ready, but college and career ready. So we're very excited about the opportunities that our pathways provide, and this certification model makes sure that we stay focused and driven for success, because we want to make sure that our quality of program improves. It should never become static. The world is not static, and we want to make sure that we accelerate the opportunities for our students. And this certification platform, when you get a chance to really look at it and dig into it, it is a living, breathing platform. They are always looking for other indicators that you might want to include, but it is a great way to make sure that our students are being best prepared, and that what we say we're doing, we're actually doing.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Bijou. And so just to add on to that, while Bijou is mentioning all of the really rigorous and aspirational opportunities that we're intending to be able to unlock for students that are coming out of these high quality and certified pathways, I also wanted to show that there are some benefits that you'll be able to unlock immediately as your pathway is getting registered at the candidate and at the Linked Learning Silver level. We'll talk a little bit more about those tiers in a moment, but in front of you is a list of some of the benefits that your pathway team is able to unlock, both to support the work that your staff and your administration is doing, but also to directly give opportunities and benefits to your students, such as eligibility for a linked learning scholarship, and recognition through media acknowledgments and through annual convenings and events. But to switch gears a little bit, we've told you a good amount about the backstory behind, why linked learning certification is so important, how it's going to benefit pathways and students from those pathways. So now I wanted to get a little bit into the details to help make sure that you understand how the tool actually works. So the first step for a user is to actually just get started. You can go on and create your own account and start building out a pathway profile just by answering a few simple questions about the pathway design, the industry sector that it's intended to align with, and then go ahead and add on any additional collaborators. From there, a user can start to track their progress. They can start to look at the standards for the next level of certification that they're pursuing. They can start to put in some of their information and then start to actually reflect on that. After tracking your progress and starting to meet some of the standards, you'll be able to go back and reflect on how you're doing, if there are any standards or specific categories that your pathway is struggling with a bit, and then be able to reflect with your team. We have a very brief video that shows a little bit of what that process looks like. This is as if a user is logged in to their pathway account. They're entering in some of the standards, and they've been able to achieve that first level, that candidate level. Now the number of standards has grown in order to achieve the next higher level, Linked Learning Silver, and they're starting to fill them in. With each of these standards for Linked Learning Silver, there is some evidence required, so the pathway user does need to demonstrate how they're meeting that standard. You may see the shaded colors that are moving along on the progress dial. Those reflect some extra credit standards we've built in. The extra credit standards are intended for a couple of purposes. They trigger the user to anticipate what standards are going to be expected at the next highest level, so at that Linked Learning Gold level. But they also offer some recognition for great practices that a pathway has implemented that may not be required as a baseline level for the certification, but we know does have an indicator of quality and does reflect that students are likely achieving higher outcomes as a result of that program. So with that, I'm going to actually switch gears a little bit, and I'll take us out of our slide deck and show you what the account looks like, what it feels like to actually go through that registration and to create your first pathway. Please feel free to disregard the URL you'll see on my screen. The correct URL to use is certification.linkedlearning.org. But I'm going to go ahead and use a demo account that you can get to directly to log in by going to the linkedlearning.org homepage, clicking on Certification and Analytics, and from there you'll be able to click directly through to the certification page, but you'll also be able to find out some information about Linked Learning Analytics. This is the landing page for, I'll load on your screens in just a moment. Here's the landing page for Linked Learning Certification. You're welcome to explore around this site. You can scroll through and get an understanding of how the tool works. But once you're ready to go ahead and get started, you'll just click the Get Started button. When you're an existing user and you're logging back in, you can just go up in the right-hand corner and click to sign back in. So once I've clicked Get Started, your first step is creating your own account. This is for yourself, so this is not relevant to your specific pathway, but I'll just create it based on some of my information. And if you are anticipating that you're from a district and you may be joining multiple different pathways that are associated with different schools, you can just enter in your school or your district. No need to enter in a specific school. So because I anticipate I'll want to be a collaborator on multiple different pathways, I'm just going to leave it at selecting a district for now. I'm going to select the high school that I'm starting a pathway at. If one of my team members from my district had already started pathways at Century High, I would see those pathways listed here, and I could click on all of them and request access. Because I'm the first user from my district at this school, I'm going to go ahead and create a brand new pathway. By creating a brand new pathway, I'm going to give the pathway a name, associate it with an industry sector, and then click the next step. It often happens where you may have a pathway that's associated with multiple industry sectors. It's fine to give it a primary and a secondary sector. From there, some additional basic information about when the pathway was started, how many grades participate in that pathway, and then a little bit about your mission statement. Because I know I can edit this later, I'm just going to put a placeholder for now. At that point, you've initiated your pathway. You've created your own account, and you've also created the Pathways account. From here, you can go back to your home page or start the process. If I go back to my home page, this is where I could toggle between different pathway accounts I'm already a part of, or if I go to start the process, I can actually start filling in standards to pursue certification for this arts pathway. Just to show you what it looks like, I'm going to go ahead to my home page. Here you can see all of the pathways that I'm a part of would be listed here, associated with what school those are with. I could add a new pathway directly from here at any time. I can also go back into my settings and change some of my account information. Here at the bottom where you see requests, this is the section for adding any collaborators to your pathway account. So now that I've created the arts pathway at Century High, if one of my colleagues wanted to also be associated with that pathway, they would start from the same homepage at certification.linklearning.org, click the Create a Pathway, and when they selected Century High, they would see the arts pathway there and could request access. The onus would be on myself or any other collaborators to just approve their request. But because I don't want to add any other pathways right now, I can click straight into the arts pathway, and here you can see my pathway progress. I'm on the certification page, so I could start scrolling through the standards and looking to meet the candidate level standards. Just by clicking into any of these individual standards, you could see what they're asking, and I could start to measure myself and my progress. A couple other key features that I want to highlight pretty quickly for you. Up at the top, your main features within an individual Pathways account is your Pathway certification, which is really where you are tracking your progress, inputting the standards you're meeting, and uploading evidence. In your Pathway overview is where you're seeing a lot of that information reflected back to you. Once I had input my pathway sequences, the courses that are part of my pathway, I would start to see those here. I can see all of the collaborators, what our pathway objective is, and start to edit some of that information as we grow with the pathway. Up in the right-hand corner is also where you can kind of navigate around your account. If I was a part of multiple pathway accounts, I would see them all listed here. And then I also have some resources around the glossary, the definitions for the terms that are being used in each category of standards. Some resources around, are there capacity builders that might help me build out my work-based learning continuum for my students. And then some specifics around the certification levels and certification requirements. But if that's all I wanted to do for now, I could just click back up to the top and sign out. And could always go back to the landing page for some more information. But with that, we'll still save some questions for the end. I'm sure that has raised a good number of questions for folks on the line. So we'll hold those for the end and kind of go back into some of the slide deck. Not mean to start us from the beginning. Sorry, folks. But just to catch up where we are, so as I was explaining during the overview, there are three main levels of certification that pathways can start to achieve right now. The first two that I showed you briefly are Linked Learning Candidate and Linked Learning Silver. Sorry, we got a bit backtracked on my slides. The Linked Learning Candidate level is really to demonstrate the commitment that a pathway has to the linked learning approach. It is a relatively low barrier, has low burden of evidence, and it is all self-reported. So you're demonstrating your commitment to implementing the linked learning approach. To achieve the Linked Learning Silver level, this is the level at which you would be demonstrating that you are committed to the approach, but you are also implementing the approach and have the four core components all available for your students. And then what we're working towards is the Linked Learning Gold level that will have a bit of a higher burden of evidence and not be fully self-reported, but also build in some of that evidence from the linked learning analytics system. But what we've gone over for you today is still just the beginning. There's a bit of a larger vision for how this can be applicable and for next steps for your pathways to be able to achieve higher and higher levels of certification, but also unlock some of those really meaningful benefits for your students, such as accelerated opportunities for a post-secondary experience or some form of preferential hiring from employers that are recognizing that students in certified and high-quality linked learning pathways are really uniquely prepared to be highly successful and effective in the workforce, but also in their higher levels of academics. And so we wanted to give you a little bit of an idea of what you can anticipate is coming down the road and what we're working towards. So there's a couple of additional pieces on our roadmap. One is building out the ability for our region to have some kind of a macro view of what their pathway statuses are, the progress of all of the pathways within a district or a region. The ability to integrate with the work happening around linked learning analytics so that as you're tracking your pathways progress in quality, you're also able to track pathway outcomes and student outcomes. And then finally, that we're able to build on higher levels of certification, including Linked Learning Gold. And at this point, Bijou, I'll kind of invite you, if you wanted to speak at all about what the data and analytics integration would mean. I know that you and your district have been really involved with that work from the start, so if there's anything you'd want to add to that.
I would just add that as an educator, both the analytics and data integration as well as the certification platform provides, thinking as a teacher provides me with a roadmap. Thinking as an administrator, it allows me to look at all of our programs and see where some might need further support or some can mentor other pathways, so to speak, to provide the same experience. I really do believe that data needs to be part of everything that we do, and I was excited to be part of a conversation with Cal State System last week, talking about how we can even work to share the data back and forth so we can know how our students are doing when they go to post-secondary education. So as a district, I think all of this provides us with the necessary information to do and to reflect. And both are very critical to make sure that we're always being efficient with our funds and with our energy, because the efficacy of a program is really important. So it's nice to have anecdotal data, but this provides the nuts and bolts that oftentimes others want to see. So I think it's very, this is a step in the right direction. We're very excited to be part of this. And what I really do appreciate is it is not a program that's being, this is how it's going to be. It's always asking educators in the field, how can we make it better? And that's what's so exciting about this opportunity through linked learning.
Great, thank you, Bijou. And then we wanted to get a chance to explain a little bit more in depth to you about what types of benefits and opportunities you can anticipate are coming soon and will be able to be unlocked for your students coming out of pathways that achieve linked learning certification.
Yeah, so Rebecca alluded to this earlier, but to just put a finer point on it, we have been building this certification experience with post-secondary and employer users in a very significant way, knowing that it is those two, our university system, our community college system, and the full range of post-secondary experiences, and the promise of a family-sustaining wage from our business community that really are the drivers and the pull for students to persist through their high school experience and then be able to move on and achieve once they graduate. So just to add a little color to that, for instance, we are working closely with NAF in terms of unlocking the promise of NAFTRAC certified hiring eligibility for linked learning students. And we are still fairly early in this work, but very much committed between our organizations to figuring out how we might create these kinds of unlocked benefits for students who are in high-quality pathways that have gone through a certification experience, but then beyond that, that the individual student is fulfilling the requisite standards and milestones that are necessary for them to earn that NAFTRAC certification and then be eligible for the employment preference that is a part of the NAF community, which is comprised of, I believe it's now 15 global companies. So very, very influential and powerful promises and opportunities for students who go through a certified pathway and achieve all the requirements at the student level to receive those benefits. So please stay tuned, but know that this is also one of our signature initiatives that's embedded within this broader effort. Likewise, parallel to the NAFTRAC certified hiring eligibility, we are working with our post-secondary partners at the community college and California State University level to think about how we might create accelerated opportunities for students who go through a certified program of study, again fulfilling specific milestones, so that their eligibility for transitioning into either the community college or the university is made more seamless, and that we are essentially building out an array of different ways that we can extend entry points for students to move into a college experience ideally without needing remediation, but we're in scoping phase there. We're working closely. One of our pilot partners is Cal State San Bernardino, who is committed to designing this effort with us, but it's always with a view towards scale. So as we move through the pilot phases and learn from them. The intention then is to expand those accelerated opportunities to our students who are within the pathway, the linked learning pathway programs.
Great, thank you, Alex. So with that, that kind of wraps up the main part of our presentation for this webinar. I did want to provide you just a couple of next steps for any districts or pathways or partners who may have colleagues who are interested to register for certification. You can simply go to certification.linkedlearning.org and just hit that Get Started button. I know we've mentioned a little bit about linked learning analytics and LaunchPath on this webinar. If you have questions about either of those tools or want to hear more, we do have a couple of upcoming webinars that are focused on both linked learning analytics and on LaunchPath. Those are 2 and 4 weeks from now, so on Wednesday, February 15th at 11 a.m. and Wednesday, March 1st at 11 a.m. And you can find that information from the Linked Learning Alliance or by contacting us at info@linkedlearning.org. But with that, we do have a couple of questions that have come through the chat box, so wanted to raise those and then try to get to as many as we can in the last couple of minutes. The first question is there anything in the tool that speaks to the district school's responsibility to ensure systems, structures are in place that support college career ready, for example, A to G as a minimum requirement? And I can go ahead and touch on that, or Bijou and Alex, if you want to as well. So yes, that is certainly one of the core principles in the design, and it is one of the base standards that we've built in to linked learning certification. So when you go on there, you'll see that one of the standards, both at the candidate level and at the linked learning silver, is that the pathway is offering courses and making it available to all pathway students and encouraging them to be enrolled in courses that are preparing them for college entry, for example, A to G courses. It's not spelled out that it is a school or a district responsibility, because right now the pathway experience is really recognizing, the pathway certification is really recognizing the pathway's design. I think we have another couple of questions in here. We have a question around, will the pathway overview page and information be able to be linked to our Academy website so that we can use the information on our site without having to recreate it? I have a couple questions about that question. I'm not quite sure if I'm getting it right. Ooh, low battery. I don't know if, do you have anything you want to add to that?
It's a great question. I think it's something that we would need to bring back to our development partners to find out what we can do in terms of making the link available as a easy portal through a district or school site homepage. So I envision that there might be some technical considerations that we would need to address, but we will circle back and bring you that information as soon as we have clarity around it.
And from my perspective, I need more information about that question also, because you could have it linked on, you could have the status of your certification posted on the Academy website, but this is really an intuitive tool that I don't think it would just mirror what you've already placed on your Academy webpage. I mean, this tool, certification tool, actually needs to be worked on collaboratively or individually, but it requires information. So I don't see how it would meld together necessarily. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you, Bijou.
And I think we just have time for maybe one, maybe two other questions. So one that came through is, how is this certification platform related to LaunchPath? That's a great question. So as many of you might know, the Linked Learning Alliance jointly manages the LaunchPath tool with our partners at the Foundation for California Community Colleges. And for those that aren't familiar, LaunchPath is tool to manage your regional work-based learning activities, and it does offer kind of the full continuum from guest speakers and job shadows all the way through internships and student jobs. So we're working with our development team at Launchpad to try to see if there's the potential for integration so that the tools can be used, in a streamlined manner, and also so that some of the data that's being collected as students are completing work-based learning opportunities through Launchpad is able to be tracked and help inform your progress in completing work-based learning standards, as well as finding out about how active your pathway is able to be in the work-based learning space. And then I think our final question for today, someone asked about the gold level of certification and mentioned the need for linked learning analytics. The question is linked learning analytics a paid program, or is it available to all for free? So linked learning analytics is a data environment, is an analytics system that we are offering and offering to all users of linked learning certification, or to districts who are ready to get started with their data but don't think they're ready to go with pursuing certification yet. It is a service that the Linked Learning Alliance offers, so it is available on an annual services contract. Right now, we are offering a kind of first-year discount, but regardless of the discount, it is intended to be a service, so it has a relatively low cost to maintain, and it's intended so that any district is able to use it. But with that, I think that concludes the amount of time that we had for today's webinar. Thank you all so much for joining and for your thoughtful questions. Please feel free to reach out to us for any follow-up you may have. Contact information is up on the screen, and we will be continuing to share more information, so look forward to talking to you and hoping you can join our follow-up webinars on linked learning analytics and Launchpad.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.